Good day, everybody. My name is Dr. Jim Houran, and welcome to this special Seed Trade webinar, Business Rebound and Recovery in the New Enchantment Economy. As I said, my name is Jim Houran. Call me Jim. I'm an organizational psychologist and one of the managing directors at AETHOS Consulting Group, where we do executive search, compensation consulting, and my particular forte is organizational dynamics, workplace psychology. But I'm also interested in consumer psychology. And today I have a group of experts that are going to help me explore a topic that I've been personally researching for a few years. I hope they're going to maybe build on some insights that I've learned, as well maybe challenge some of my ideas. With us today is Agnelo, Chief Strategy Officer with Terranea Resort, beautiful luxury environment in California. Francesca, known for her work as SVP of Experience, Product Synergy and Integration at Disneyland Paris. And last but not least, Jim Berra, Chief Marketing Officer with Royal Caribbean International. Now, we're going to be talking today about a question that I've been exploring for a few years, and that has to do with, first, is the enchantment economy real? And actually, the question started with, is the experience economy that we're all familiar with, we have been for 25 years, has that been evolving? Maybe gradually, but has it actually been budding into something much more potent? Well, I've been exploring this issue by trying to understand why something called paranormal tourism has been so popular. Now, we know the experience economy is all about businesses competing on the quality of the experience they give their consumers. So it's not just about a service or a product per se, it's about the experience that you're giving people. That's ultimately what a business provides and what they are differentiated on. And typically, you can think of the experience economy as grounded in three value propositions that a consumer looks at: cost, comfort, and convenience. And maybe you might want to add to that the cool factor. If something is new and hip and just very Instagrammable, something you can brag about on social media. Well, the experience economy, however, didn't seem to be consistent with the phenomenon that I've been studying, known as paranormal tourism. Now, you probably know about this because maybe during the Halloween season, yourself have been on a fun ghost hunt or a paranormal tour. But if you really look at that kind of excursion, it shouldn't be popular, at least beyond a certain group of individuals. It shouldn't have mass appeal. Why? Well, first, there's the cost factor. First off, these things tend to occur at locations that are very remote. So you have the cost of getting to the excursion, then you have the cost of the excursion itself, which can be high sometimes. These aren't comfortable excursions. Usually you're outside in bad weather or maybe inside under conditions that are decrepit. You are huddled next to people that you don't even know. Not exactly a comfortable, familiar setting. And finally, it's not convenient. Besides these locations where they have the paranormal tours being remote, usually they're held at night, obviously for the ambiance or the atmosphere, but it doesn't add to the convenience factor. So my question was, why is paranormal tourism so popular? And I'm not just talking during Halloween. Paranormal tourism has global appeal year-round, and not just for those small set of people that are into ghosts or hauntings, but I'm talking about with consumers of diverse backgrounds. What is the allure? Why would something that's not necessarily cost-effective, comfortable, or convenient have such mass appeal year-round? Well, when you start studying the question, interviewing and surveying the consumers of paranormal tourism, the visitors give you a sense of what's really going on. That it's not just about the experience economy or the traditional pillars of the experience economy. Instead, what they're really looking for is an event, an experience that goes beyond cost, comfort, or convenience, that challenges or extends their understanding of reality and their place in it. In other words, they're looking for a new level, a new kind of wow factor, something that hits them as existentially. I call that a sense of enchantment. Now, that's not, of course, a foreign concept to any of our panelists today. If anyone has visited Terranea Resorts, you know it's not just an exclusive, beautiful setting, but consumers go there for a sense of tranquility, perspective, restorative experiences. And of course, Royal Caribbean for years has had I believe, a Vision class ship called the Enchantment of the Seas. So they already have that concept on their radar. And of course, Francesca will tell us that probably one of the draws for her when she was at Disneyland was that Disney as a brand, as a company, has been redefining expectations and our sense of reality for decades. So the panelists probably are well aware of this concept and probably have tried to leverage it. So I was expecting with this kind of background to go into the academic literature and learn all about the psychology of enchantment, but it doesn't really exist. There's almost no information on it. So new studies were needed to really understand the nature of enchantment, as well as its relevance as a consumer motivator. And since that research didn't exist, I got busy. For the past couple of years, I've been looking at this question of what is consumer enchantment, and therefore how might we leverage it, especially now that businesses are trying to ramp up to compete in the economy with the rebound and recovery period. One way they might be able to do that is by delivering a sense of enchantment. In my research over the past couple of years, there are 5 major findings that I wanted to share with you today. First, when you think enchantment, you might think it's a simple emotion like awe, wonder, delight, or surprise, and that it's a very positive experience. That doesn't seem to be the case, actually. Enchantment seems to be a person being in a mixed state, filled with competing emotions and thoughts. So it's not just pleasant sensations or experiences or perceptions, but that is juxtaposed with things that put people out of their comfort level, surprise, unpredictability. So you're talking actually about a mixture of competing themes. And that mixture, that confluence, tends to induce 2 types of outcomes. First, people are in a sort of state of shock. In other words, people are situated between what's reality and what's fantasy, that twilight zone, so to speak. So they're situated betwixt and between reality and fantasy. And because their sense of reality is expanded beyond themselves, they're becoming aware of things that they didn't even think could be possible. That usually fosters a very positive sense at the end of connection to a transcendent agency or ultimate reality. In other words, enchantment is not just some one-time emotion. Enchantment is a portal to an awakening. Now, this all sounds like just touchy-feely psychology stuff, but actually there's a business case here. In our research, we also learned that customers, consumers that are in a state of enchantment because of a product or a service that they've been through, that enchantment ratings positively and significantly correlate with net promoter scores. In other words, the more enchanted a consumer feels, the more they're apt to be active promoters of a business or a brand, rather than detract from it. And you don't have to be on some excursion that's fanciful or remote to try to have that feeling of enchantment. Our consumer sentiment surveys actually found that people often find enchantment in their daily lives. It's elusive, but it happens. And it tends to happen through 5 general categories of experience. Maybe these will make sense to you. It certainly ties into the service hospitality industry, and especially the offerings of the cruise industry. First, you have escapades, meaning people that are on an adventurous escape to a particular destination that's new to them. Or there might be an event or an experience that draws on nostalgia, reminiscing about a special first-time event for a person. In other words, they're trying to relive their past. Or it could be an event that has to be grounded in catharsis, which is a participation in an event related to a sense of liberation, ecstasy, a free flow of feeling. Or they can also achieve enchantment through a sense of communion, which is an impromptu or a planned meeting with people that you don't know, but where you have a feeling of fellowship under a very special set of circumstances. And finally, the notion of attachment, which is where an individual is in a family activity that reinforces their bonding as well as sense of legacy for their family moving forward. So you can see that sometimes these occur in tandem and sometimes they occur singly. But what I've also found is when you survey consumers that are eager to get out of their house, get out of the anxiety, the depression, the isolation of the pandemic, they're not just looking for experiences of escapism or entertainment per se. It's almost as if the pandemic has caused so much sacrifice for people that people now are saying to themselves, the universe owes me. There needs to be some cosmic justice. And I want more than just a wow factor. I want something very meaningful in exchange. And you see terms now popping up in the news like revenge travel, transformative travel. People are seeking something that goes beyond just the core pillars of what we know as the experience economy. And specifically, consumers have told me in surveys they're looking for experiences that give them a sense of enchantment. That's what I've learned so far, but I'm eager to hear from our panel because they have experiences and insights and they've conducted their own research. So they're the real stars of the show today. And I want to remind you that if anyone has questions over anything that you're seeing or hearing today, please type in the chat box your question or comment, and we will spend the last 15 minutes of the session going over your questions and exploring your ideas. So panelists, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to start first, Agnelo, with you, because I happen to know that in your work at Terranea Resort, you're not just about delivering luxury and relaxation, but you're also trying to understand the psychology of your consumers, and you've done your own market research. I'm curious, how much of what I'm seeing, what I think is the experience economy evolving into an enchantment economy, is that even real, or am I just seeing faces and clouds?
Well, Jim, thank you for the opportunity and to be a part of this panel. And so to your point, I do believe that we are shifting well away from the experience economy to something closer to an enchantment economy. And there's good reason to believe that. We conducted, so we had to shut down our resort in the middle of March and went into this crisis mode. And as we sort of evolved out of that crisis mode, we decided that the most important thing for us is to protect our brand and ensure connectivity with our customer base. So we did some formal research, some informal research with our existing and prospect audiences within our key feeder markets, and just wanted to hyper engage with them through social media and digital platforms. So what we found is that folks at the very basic level wanted us to restore confidence in the travel experience. They wanted to understand what that contactless environment was, whether cleanliness and safety was important to us as much as it was to them, and how do we communicate and execute that. But I think the most important thing was the authentic, ongoing, two-way communication and the social listening we did. And we found that folks wanted that informational piece of it, the communications, the emotional side of it, and really the functional side of it. And as we drilled down to those expectations, we found that really people were moving away from that, just the regular vacation getaway, right? It meant more to them. They wanted experiences that fostered a sense of harmony, a sense of enlightenment, a sense of healing, because a lot of them were hurting over what had happened to their world, and a detachment from that physical realm of this global pandemic. We also found out through our research what was important to them was the ability to connect, and in some cases reconnect to what matters most: self-care, family, loved ones. And they wanted a place to get away and take the deepest breath, and the ability to have that room to roam. We also found that their mindset had changed. There was confusion, so they wanted to find places that helped them bring positivity to the forefront and ultimately gratitude. And at the core of all of this, they wanted bucket list trips and events to make up for the lost time, in the form of wellness, reset vacations, makeup and revenge travel, a term that's been commonly thrown around, and sustainability. So through all of this, as we sort of tried to filter and distill all of this to what does this mean for our audience, we came up with the following: that it is really, really important that if we were to get future ready, we understood what they wanted, and what they wanted was something that was meaningful, that tugged at their heartstrings, but also had that wow factor. And so we did this with wellness in mind, with the Epicurean thing, theme in mind, as well as sustainability in mind. So for us, the research all filtered down to them saying, we don't mind paying the big ticket, but make sure you can communicate it to me in an effective way, and most importantly, execute it when it's time to do so, because you will own me for the rest of my life as a loyal customer.
Okay, that sounds encouraging, and that seems to very much align with what I'm seeing as well. Now, let me ask you, did you see those kinds of trends, consumers looking for those deeper, richer experiences even before COVID? And then also, are you noticing a surge in that kind of motivation for consumers that are booking now?
Absolutely. You know, the interesting thing is we, as I mentioned, we do a lot of listening as part of our ongoing research. You know, pre-COVID, I think the mindset was a little different. They were looking for those bucket list getaway items so that they could post it on social media and say, well, here I am, you know, at Terranea or at Disney Paris or on a Royal Caribbean cruise, and you're not, right? That there was that sense of excitement. But what shifted, what we found, what shifted in that psychology was, I'm doing this for me, I'm doing this for my loved ones, and I want to make it so special that this wow is something that's going to last with me, truly last with me for a lifetime. And we're seeing that moving forward too.
So Jim, let me ask you, because my understanding of a big part of the cruise industry is appealing not only to the people that already are loyal customers. You're trying to bring in new to cruise as a segment.
Absolutely.
Of course, the entire industry is. To what extent is trying to deliver on Enchantment part of your deliberate product and service innovations?
You know, it's a huge part of our recipe and our formula for success, both pre-pandemic and certainly coming out of the pandemic. We've been doing weekly pulse checks in all of our major markets now for 65 weeks, really since the onset of the pandemic, which we were dealing with in China at the beginning of last year. It's hard to believe that it's still ongoing, but we are moving in a very productive direction as an industry. So I'm looking forward to the summer. I think you hit on in those 5 types of categories, if you will, of enchantment experiences. We think a lot about them with a particular mindset around families and family bonding. And the way that happens can be experiences that are small, medium, and large, but you have to think about how everyone in the family participates. And a great example that predates my time at Royal Caribbean, but I always like to use, is we were the first to introduce a flow rider on our ships, right, which is a simulated surf experience. It's incredible. You're on the open deck, ocean wind in your hair, what have you. But in a very smart way, we also put bleachers with sunshades right adjacent to the flow rider, because parents are going to want to watch their children at moments of bravery. And so that's always been a big moment for us. And I think it speaks to this idea of enchantment and those types of experiences, again, within the family market, which for us is really the on-ramp for bringing new cruisers to our brand and into the industry. And what we're also seeing in our research is that segment is the most excited, has the most pent-up demand to return to travel, to return to enchantment, as you put it. And that's because there's only so many years of childhood. And as a parent, we all recognize we've lost essentially a year and a half. So I want to make it up to Jake. And the way we're going to do that is to travel more and to look for those types of experiences with the enchantment characteristics. We might take a more simple vacation to kind of get back into the mode, but I suspect 2022 will be the year of family bucket list travel.
Francesca, Disney, of course, you're in the enchantment business in multimedia types of ways. How do you see this idea of the enchantment economy? I guess Disney has always been in that business, but do you see a wider appeal or desire for consumers wanting enchanting experiences?
For sure. And you said at the very beginning, Jim, keyword, which is revenge. So actually today we are living into disenchantment, right? Everything that we went through with our families. Think about kids that were stuck at home without any friend, had to do, remote, of course, courses if they were going to school, and for fathers and mothers that were working. It was very, very tough. So never forget that this year it really changed the way we're looking at reality and the world. So I would say that now more than ever, enchantment economy or everything around travels that are actually the dream of your life will become something so important. I have no doubt. And maybe you have seen that the Disneyland Paris is just announced it's going to reopen on the 17th of June. There's so much, everyone is super excited, from the employees, the cast members, as we call them, as they are part of the story making, right? So they are part of the enchantment. Actually, they are the #1 tool. To, of course, all families that are booking their trips and things like that. So I would say revenge tourism, it is a reality. And also enchantment, when we talk about, you know, the business of the enchantment, and the parks are the land of enchantment, as we call them, we become catalysts of emotions. This is what we are. We try to immerse people in experiences that they will never forget, that will be part of their life forever. And how you do that is by triggering these amazing emotions that will leave you with ecstatic experiences. This is the enchantment, right? When you are experiencing an ecstatic moment in your life. So I am sure that hospitality, which is an industry that is per se human-centered, you know, we have not only, we will see, of course, this revenge tourism, but we have a very important role in society today more than ever. I would say art and entertainment today are the solution to this sense of, you know, loss of hope, or disenchantment that the world had to go through. So this is my opinion, and I see so many things that we will have to do, starting by, of course, re-engaging our people, our employees, as they are our arm. You know, they are the you know, the people that actually with their job every day, they get this enchantment becoming a reality. So there's a lot that we have to do post-pandemic, but I'm a big believer on the enchantment economy, and a big believer that we will see this revenge request of amazing experiences for the future.
Now, of course, delivering enchantment is easier said than done, right? I mean, we're still understanding what goes into that psychological experience of enchantment. And it seems counterintuitive. So you three, help me understand and see if I'm on the right track. But I think that it's very tempting maybe for service or product developers to think in terms of giving the customer exactly what they want. Make it always positive and bigger and better. And actually that might be a misguided view. That really enchantment, again, is about putting a person in a state where they're not sure what's reality, what's fantasy. They're out of their comfort zone. They're not sure even now what is possible. And so that sounds risky, pushing a consumer out of their comfort zone where they're in a state of mixed or conflicting emotions, perceptions, and ideas. The outcome is positive because it makes a person reflect. Their sense of themselves and the realities is expanded, and they have a new sense of perspective about their place in the world. But that sounds like a risky proposition. It sounds safer to go bigger and bolder and give people exactly what they want, not give them what they're not expecting. So am I on the right track? Because I think some people would rebel against that idea of making a consumer uncomfortable.
Well, I think there's an element to that. I go back to this idea of bravery and overcoming the unknown, and that can take place in ways that are small, medium, and large. So it could be trying a local cuisine for the first time, or biting into an exotic piece of fruit, or just even the first time you go snorkeling and you're underwater in this completely different ecosystem, you know, and you realize kind of your size and stature in the world, and that's whether you're an adult or a child. So I think for us, we tend to think about it as moments of certainly getting out of your comfort zone and having to kind of tap into your own personal bravery. And then the chance, as you mentioned in your introductory comments, to brag about it through social media and on Instagram, because we all, you know, want to be interesting in social media, and moments of bravery, you know, shine through time and time again.
So Agnelo, people come to Terranea. I mean, it's a beautiful property. It's very relaxing. Do you all push your guests out of their comfort zone in certain strategic ways?
Well, I'm not sure if we push them in any, not at this point in time, at least, because as we are ramping back up, I think the two things that I think about is communication and the simplicity, and simplicity in the way we communicate it, simplicity in the way we deliver it, because I think that's what people are looking for. But that wow factor that we talked about earlier is really, really critical. For instance, when we think about our immersive wellness offering, and we're just launching our Rediscover You campaign, and it really is about this rediscovering your calm within this pandemic storm, or whether you are in it or you're coming out of it, depending on what your mindset is. So we're actually talking about people that may be golfers and maybe food aficionados that are now thinking about the immersive wellness piece. And the way we communicate it is by just making sure that we talk about what that experience is in a simplistic manner. Now it's up to them whether they want to push the envelope or not. We're not in that position to do that just as yet. I do think that as things evolve, we will. So getting back to this rediscovering your calm within within this pandemic storm, as I called it, we talk about things like seaside yoga. We talk about things like a wellness workshop, and it's essentially bringing yourself to this point where you're connecting with things that matter most. Now, and then we talk about nutrition, and we talk about mindset and the positivity side of things. We talk about mandala painting, which is really painting on a rock, and it's this Sanskrit sort of style of painting that evolved from Hinduism and Buddhism, and it's really bringing you back to this level of meditation. Now, I think about myself, and if I were to do a vacation, it's somebody like most executives is running at 1,000 miles an hour. It is hard to slow down. But if I realize through the communication that Terranea has put out, that is the value benefit for you to step out of your comfort zone to achieve that mindset of tranquility, so you can reset and get back to life in a different shape or form, that's when I would get out of my comfort zone. So we do it through communication, we do it through how we elaborate the story, but I don't know if we do it intentionally without, it's hard to force somebody to do something that they wouldn't want to do.
No, absolutely. Tell me, for people that visit Terranea for the first time and they leave a comment card or they post a review, what do they remember most? Are there particular common experiences or settings at Terranea that people consistently have that wow factor with?
Absolutely. What's interesting is I actually take a lot of pride in saying that the comments that they make most about are the people and the service they receive. And that's really the heart and soul of what we do. But beyond that, there are signature moments that, we kind of have those on site. And, starting with our Falconeer program, it describes why a falcon flies above Terranea, making sure that they chase the seagulls away so that the guest experience is just one of those of tranquility, and that's what you've come for. And you're not bothered by birds. We have this amazing signature service at our spa, which entails a copper bathtub, and you're sitting there soaking in the different elements, healing elements of copper, and overseeing the ocean, watching dolphins and whales pass by. We've got a sunset ritual, where we have the singing bowls, and it's kind of this vibration that your body just soaks in, and and it's just this feeling of taking you away from the ordinary and putting you in a place that just says, what, this is awesome. At the end of the day, we talk about transformative feelings. And I know that transformation was part of the experience economy, but that's where it all starts. And now we're thinking about how do we elevate those experiences to foster that sense of, that detachment from the physical reality that everybody faces outside the 102 acres at Terranea.
Well, you just hit on something else. When I describe it as a person being betwixt and between reality and fantasy, the way that the consumers in our research describe it is that being lifted out of the mundane or the difficult experience of daily life. So they're mentally, in some cases, physically transported to an entirely new mindset. And again, it's that expanded awareness that gives them a sense of, wow, I'm connected to something greater than myself. And that's a feeling that can be addictive, even certainly shareable, but also addictive. But enchantment, I don't think has to mean bigger, more vast experiences or bigger is always better. And Francesca with Disney, because they're obviously known for going big with a lot of their concepts and their ideas, but they also focus on the details, don't they, to make sure that everything potentially, or many things, even at a small level, can induce enchantment or that sense of awe or wonder.
Yeah, and in fact here, I think Agnelo actually just said that there's a key word again, which is immersive. And immersive and stories, so now they become so important. The story that we want to tell needs to be so authentic, and we need to create these immersive worlds where people can live the story that they are hearing. So the need, as you were saying, Jim, to escape the reality is now stronger than ever again. So what we do, for instance, is to really take people to different worlds. If you think about, I don't know, the Star Wars land, I don't know if you've been there the first time, you turn the corner, out of the sudden, oh my goodness, I'm on a galaxy far, far away. And the reality of that immersive world is so true to the story that you don't know even more who you are and where you are. You want to start your journey either as a pilot or whatever, or a rebel. You get into this amazing stuff. So for me, the key is this ability to immerse our guest into the new reality, and of course extend the storytelling, as you were saying, Jim, to all the little details. That's why you will hear me talk a lot about our employees. They are the maker of the enchantment, because eventually in a stay in a park or stay in a cruise line, you will always have people interaction with one of our employees, whether it's you get into the hotel and you need to do your check-in, or you have an issue with the luggage, or then you go into the Star Wars land. You always will experience a human interaction. That is actually where the enchantment starts. So in my life with Disney, I can tell you that I always thought that the most, memorable things for people were, of course, our attractions. I don't know, like It's a Small World, the Parks of the Caribbean, but actually the orders that I received day and night from our fans. I was really impressed by seeing that they always were about people interaction, like saying thank you to a cast member, thank you to someone that saved, like an issue, or thank you for another one that make their trip into the Pirates of the Caribbean ship amazing, and things like that. It was always about people. So we can talk a lot about so many things that we can do to enchant and get our guests into amazing experience, ecstatic experience that we remember forever. But I couldn't stress enough the fact that, yes, the attention to details, yes, the story that needs to be authentic and the extent of the storytelling into these immersive worlds, but also requires people to make the story become reality for our guests. So at the end, the cast, as we call it, because they are the story maker for us, so the employees and the consumers are at the center of the enchantment economy, because I repeat, hospitality is a human-centered industry. So
Absolutely.
It's this link that is so important to me.
Well, the Star Wars attraction is particularly enchanting to someone like me because I was a young kid when Star Wars came out in 1977. So I was part of the original worldwide phenomenon that is Star Wars. So to go to an attraction like that is literally to go back in time for me. And I could feel the same kind of feelings that I had waiting in line to get in to see the movie. So really drawing on the nostalgia factor that we mentioned earlier. But you also hit upon a great point, and you all have actually hit on this issue of, to be enchanting, the experience has to be immersive. I mean, the consumer, the individual, has to, in a way, let down their guard and not be an observer, but they have to be a participant in the experience. And we're seeing that also in tourism, where you're pushing for experiences where the visitor becomes part of the experience, not just a transient observer or visitor, but they help to define, to construct the experience. And that notion of immersion, or psychologists call it absorption. It's the same thing. You become part of the scenery. That some people seem more prone to do that than others, but immersiveness, that's something most people think of only as a tech term. Immersive experiences, augmented reality, virtual reality, where you feel like you're part of the illusionary environment. But immersive experiences, I think, are obviously the key to enchantment. Unless you can get someone to immerse themselves intellectually, emotionally, just sensational wise, they're never going to have that sense of being expanded beyond what they know. But delivering on immersive experiences, I still think is probably easier said than done. What, for those people that are listening to want to know, little guidelines, tips, tactics on how can you load the dice for events or experiences to be as enchanting as possible? And obviously not everything can or probably should be enchanting. There's also something called too much of a good thing. But from your market research and just your own product and service innovations in your respective businesses, what little tips, what little nuggets of gold can you pass on to the attendees today to help them start to re-examine their own product offerings to try to make them a little bit more enchanting?
Yeah, I can give an example. You know, and we saw this in early research, again, pre-pandemic with the millennial demographic. And I think the pandemic and just in general, it was translating to other generational cohorts. But it really is this idea of moving away from touristic, I'm viewing something, to immersive, I'm experiencing it. So a good example is if you're driving by the market, whether that's in the Bahamas or Jamaica or wherever it happens to be, you know, that's wonderful. You can capture a picture, what have you, but going to the market, buying fruits and vegetables and proteins, and then cooking, and then being able to share that meal with other folks that were with you on that adventure, that takes it to a whole different level. And I know that that's a kind of a simple example, but it flips it from I'm observing, I was there, I documented it, it was kind of touristic, to I actually participated, I got my hands into it, I had an experience, and I did it in a way that was shared with both my family, but also people that I met through the excursion. To me, that flipping it from touristic to immersive and participatory is where you want to head.
Agnelo, Francesca, what insights do you have? How can businesses make at least certain experiences or events more immersive?
Yeah, I can go. I think for me, it's really understanding what the customer wants first and listening to their voice. I think a lot of times, you know, we can get stuck in this rut of deciding what we want to push to the customer. But if you listen to the voice of the customer and what they're looking for, you can find, you know, that common thread of creating these immersive experiences. Number one. Number two, I think, as I mentioned earlier, it's the simplicity of how do we create this so that it's easy to communicate, it's easy to execute and re-execute, so that people have these wow moments within. But I think you know, when you talk about immersive, it's, while I use the word simplicity, it also has to be timeline or, you know, a critical path to it, right? Because there's got to be a methodology towards getting to that level of immersiveness, and it has to be in phases. You just can't go from 0 to 100. And so the way we do it is really think about what is it that they feel at each touch point. So we've actually done this for both our guests as we've created different packages and, you know, within the, experiences within the wellness, sustainability, or even the Epicurean side of things. We've also done this with our associates as we've been calling them back, is that what does that journey look like, and how do we make those things, you know, they get attached to that journey. And the reason is, as Francesca said earlier, immersiveness starts and ends with the execution of what the associates do. If they are not into it, nobody else is going to get into it, and it doesn't matter what the experience is. So really, those are kind of the tips that I would think about: listening to the voice of the customer, you know, keeping simplicity in mind in how you communicate, how you execute, and then re-execute from time to time, and then also looking at it from the aspect of how does your team think about this immersive experience, no matter what it is, and making sure that everybody's aligned, because that's what delivers success.
And that's what Francesca, you were saying, is that the importance of also of staff in delivering enchanting experiences. I mean, obviously, products, services themselves can be enchanting, but it needs a facilitator, a catalyst, and you need to have frontline staff that also are in that mindset. I'm just curious, how do you get staff into the enchantment mindset?
So that is not a simple job. So I heard the other day I was in another webinar and people just told me, but you know, for Disney it's so easy because everyone loves the Disney brand, right? It is not like that, actually. There's a lot of training. We do a lot of training. There's a lot of talent management. There's a lot of efforts behind getting our employees proud of what they do every day. So much that as a leader, for instance, my key objectives were, of course, customer centricity and excellence in cast. So cast member excellence, right? Or excellence, as you want to call it. So they are as important as the consumers. And for us, even more, everything starts with there. So one of the suggestion that I would give to all the attendees when we talk about how we can create more enchantment, I would say number one, embrace the full customer experience. Integrate all the customer experiences. Sometimes we talk about just species, right? I talk about attractions, then we can talk about people that stay in the hotel, people that go on the cruise line. But actually, when they come to us, they experience us through all the brands and activities that we present. So to me, if we want to take it to the next level, is really, how can I say, embrace the entire customer experience. Try to go into an augmented hospitality system where you really deliver the best quality of service in each and every point of contact between the consumers, the guests, and our brand, which implies really a lot of attention to detail and as we call it, right? Every piece of the interaction should be memorable. And this is why then it becomes critical that our employees at all levels give the absolute best, because we know very, very well how difficult sometimes is the interaction with the guest. And remember that no two experiences are actually the same, because an enchantment experience is, of course, needs two actors, the stage event and the state of mind of the recipient. And even in a family of four, there could be 4 different states of mind. So just imagine how difficult is this exercise. But to me, is this like absolute focus and passion for delivering this integrated, customer experience at the maximum quality possible.
Frontline work in the hospitality industry is hard, even under the best of circumstances, right? As you just said, you're dealing with many different expectations. You're having to be very responsive, reactive. I'm just curious, training probably gets you a good degree there in providing maybe enchantment or doing things a particular way. But when you all are hiring your team members, are you looking for certain personality traits or other kinds of characteristics that can also allow them to deliver on enchantment or that wow factor beyond just the training? Because if someone I don't know, comes up against a situation that they've not been prepared for, someone has to think beyond a precedent, right? They have to be able to be ready for the unexpected, think on their feet, be a problem solver, as well as know how to connect and click and communicate with different people in different moods. So what kind of individuals are you, vetting? What characteristics are you looking for in your team members who are the ones that actually deliver the brand promise?
It's a great question. I would say that you can train, the nuts and bolts of hospitality, and everyone has different service philosophies and approaches. But I think the energy and the curiosity and the desire to be around other individuals, personality-wise, are hugely critical. And those tend to be the types of characteristics that separate the great from the good. The training can get you kind of executional excellence, but the attitudinal piece, I think, tends to relate to that mindset where there's high energy, there's a curiosity about the world and other people, and there's that desire to really interact and learn from others. And when you find that, that tends to be the type of individual who thrives in a hospitality setting.
Funny you say that, Jim, because I was with my family on Symphony of the Seas in one of its first inaugural runs, and it was an amazing experience. But my daughter actually had a wonderful time talking to one of your team members who was in charge of the zip line, and she did the zip line. And you know, this is a person that obviously is doing this time and time again. That could get very boring, but your team member was smiling, was excited to talk about the ship, his experiences with the ship and the guests, and it really added a new level of energy to the zip line. I mean, my daughter was as enthralled with that conversation as zipping over whatever it is, 17 stories, you know, which is an exciting event. But the cherry on top was a team member who also had excitement and also seemed to be enchanted themselves.
That's exactly right. I mean, Francesca and Agnelo have both made the point that you can design the experience, but what she took away and will remember the most is the interaction with that crew member and the authenticity and the energy and how that enhanced what was, you know, a moment of bravery, a moment of stepping outside of her comfort zone, but it was really elevated by the human interaction that took place. I think that's exactly right.
Yeah, it was a bit of an escapade with some communion there. It was drawing on different emotions. Agnelo, when Terranea is screening candidates to join the team, obviously you have high standards. What characteristics are you looking for in your frontline team members?
Well, you know, clearly the passion for life, passion for people, all the other characteristics that you and Jim have cited. You know, but at the end of the day, when I specifically interview, you know, I look for that it factor. You know, do they have that servant leadership gene flowing in their veins? You know, it's like, is it really that people matter to them or not? And that's the big differentiator. I've seen, you know, being in the industry for over 30 years now, it's so easy to spot somebody that is a people person or not. So what we look for is, number one, you know, does this person have the right attitude? Do they have the potential? And you know, the training all comes within, you know, within the rest of the package. But we also try to see if this person understands what they have thought about in terms of their career pathing, right? Because it's just as easy to say, I want to come and be a front desk agent, but why do you want to be a front desk agent? Or I want to, you know, be a server. Why do you want to be a server? And when we try, you know, what we try and do is understand their stories, their upbringing in a very subtle way, because your foundational values is what dictates and drives who you are as an individual, as you've grown to be who you are. And you know, do they have this love for other people, and the way they tell their stories, and if they can tie the stories tied to different people, that's what I look for. And at the end of the day, you know, it is the hardest thing in today's world to even attract people from our industry. In fact, there's a big exodus of people leaving this industry. And I think the only way for us to reset and bring people back is to bring people that have that, and using your term, Jim, the hospitality gene, which I always think about in terms of how do we bring that person that has that gene, has this hospitality, servant leadership mindset flowing in their bloodstream. And you know, if that you have those basics, the rest is awesome.
We're scratching the surface here, but we have a couple of questions. I want to be sure to get to these. And one actually relates to, again, the frontline staff, your team members, and this is for any of you. But obviously, we want consumers to be enchanted, but we also, you know, our employees are also our customers, right? They reflect our brand. We want them to be enchanted. Is there such a thing as providing for an enchanted workplace? And how do we enchant, I guess in a way that means also motivate, your employees? How do you create enchanted workforces? Anybody?
I can start and give you a quick answer. I think for, at Terranea, it's really about the why behind our very being, our purpose, and it all is mission centered. We're in business as we seek moments to be extraordinary and to deliver the extraordinary, and we explain that to our associates. We also explain to them why people come here. Why do they make that choice to pick Terranea over other world-class resorts? When those two match, and then they understand where they fit into this equation, we've seen that we've seen not only retention but successful retention for these associates. And we're blessed here because we have many associates. We've been in business for under 12 years, but we have a lot of associates that have been here for longer than 12 years, and we take pride in that. And it's really the making sure that they understand our mission and the purpose behind why they're here, and why did the guests actually choose us, that actually makes that connection. And we've seen a great deal of success from there, and it speaks a lot to our culture too.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think it begins.
Disney has been enchanting people for decades. Do you all have a philosophy of enchanting your employees too?
Well, of course, I have to say, the majority of us, we are also massive Disney fans. This helps. So I have to say, this helps a lot. But the reality is that employees always need to love the brand they work for, right? And when it comes to Disney, actually, in our case, the brand is also linked to our founder and visionary, that is Walt Disney himself. So I've been part of amazing, enchanting experience when I was an employee there by, for instance, just walking the rooms and the apartments Walt himself had inside the park, and listening to all the amazing stories. Every little window or piece of brick in the park has a story. And we have incredible storytellers. There are the Walt Disney Imagineers that really take the newcomers through a world of history and heritage. They would enchant everyone, I have to say. Me, myself, I was completely in adoration, if I can use this word. And so what we try to do as leaders is just to pass this tradition, this passion for the brand and for the founder, which is Walt Disney, and is passed from employee to employee, from generation to generation, this love and passion to make families happy. We believe that we create happiness, and this is such a positive emotion that we want to instill in everyone. And when you were, of course, talking, Jim, about what we look for when we hire people, and yes, of course, we talk a lot about skills, like just processes and things like that, and they always, we always look for hard skills and soft skills, and the hard skills, of course, can be taught. All the technical skills can be taught. What I look for, actually, is another very important piece, is empathy. And again, I want to stress the importance now of empathy and emotional intelligence. Empathy, means that you try and understand how your behavior will impact the others, and how actually, what are other people feeling, and you try to enter in that emotion flow. So empathy and emotional intelligence are today so key at all levels of the organization, more than ever, because after COVID, everyone is super sensitive, super sensitive. As we are reopening ourselves to the world, and the expectations are so high. I told you, Jim, some days ago that our consumer research, the other word that was coming up very often was more. What do you want to see in the future in the park? More characters, more experience, more food, more days, and more that. And this hunger, the revenge, hunger for more, hunger to be taken to different worlds and escape from reality. So the expectations of the guests today are so high that the exercise to enchant people becomes, of course, more and more critical. This is where I believe that empathy and emotional intelligence are so important. And then when it comes again to enchant the cast, as Agnelo said, there's also reward, but moreover, this authentic thank you exercise that we do with our cast through amazing events, only done for the cast. There are recognition events, you know, just amazing prize. This nothing is left just no one is left behind in terms of employees. There's always a thank you for so many people. So it's this sense of community and family where you can still keep the people engaged and enchanted, your own employees, even if they cannot see each other every day. So we create a platform that is called WeCast, where all the stories, you know, were told, and everyone was actually trying to be part of fun and entertainment for the other colleagues, just to stimulate this sense of community even remotely. So we could like keep and preserve this sense of passion and love for delivering this, you know, best-in-class experiences for our guests, and never leave any employees behind in terms of, you know, just forgetting what we are here for, which is create happiness.
Jim, I know I cut you off. I'm sorry. In fact, you also there's a question for you. If I could have you answer it, because I know we're kind of coming to the end. And for all the attendees, there's obviously so much more information we can be sharing, and we will certainly send out a white paper that summarizes and expands on some of the ideas. But for you, Jim, the question is, do you believe there are any new and unique retail brands or concepts that could be introduced to the global cruise segment that is currently missing and which could benefit from the enchantment economy?
Well, that's an awesome question.
Yeah, that's a huge Pandora's box. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think when I think about kind of e-commerce and trends that have emerged and probably even strengthened right during the past year when we've been home living online, I think of authenticity and curation as being big themes. And you think about, you know, FabFitFun or Birchbox. I do wonder if there's a concept. The execution of this would not be simple from a supply chain standpoint, but where we could curate the best of the best across the destinations that we sail to. And that would be a multi-category type of play. There could be beauty and fragrance, there can be jewelry and crafts, there can be cooking aids and what have you, there could be fashion, there can be art. And could we get to a place where that then manifests in a subscription, where not only did you bring something home to remember the trip, but once a month, once a quarter, you kind of pick your frequency, things are being shipped to home or as a gift to loved ones, where, again, this whole idea of authenticity and curation and being able to source these products and these stories as much as they are products, and having that come home as a reminder of the trip you've just been on or the trip you look forward to, or as a thank you for someone taking care of things at home while you were gallivanting out around the world. Execution of this would be very hard, I recognize, but conceptually, I think it plays into what we've been talking about quite nicely.
No, absolutely. It's all about expanding concepts, right? What is possible and redefining that. So I know we reached the end of our time, but Agnelo, Francesca, Jim, Berra, thank you so much for joining. And for all the attendees, we appreciate your time. And I will be sending through a white paper that summarizes and expands on some of these ideas, because as you can see, we've just scratched the surface. So thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jim.
Bye.